What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Monday Overreaction, the Overreaction Monday Show. I'm Geoff Ketchum. That's Anwar Richardson. Today's show brought to you by RogueShop.com. If you want your 4th of July to be better, if you want fireworks, go check out RogueShop.com. Use the promo code OrangeBloods and let them make your life a little bit better, whether or not you're looking for gummies or the salve or any of the wonderful things that they provide. We do love that RogueShop.com is one of our best and most awesome sponsors. Welcome to everybody jumping into the chat. Do us a solid. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, do all those things that we typically ask of you 4 or 5 times during the video. Just get that out of the way. And then when Anwar and I get to like the 15-minute mark, we don't have to beg you specifically to give us that like that we so dearly crave. Mr. Richardson, happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July. How do you like my festive shirt here, Ketch?
I was just about to say, I love that shirt. Actually,
it's a Father's Day shirt. So it was my kids gave me shirts on Father's Day. Their mom took them to pick them out. And so this was one of them. And I said to myself, I will wear this for you on the 4th of July.
MF, and good morning to you too, Longhorn Recruiting 4. Thanks for getting us started with the super chat. Anwar, as everybody continues to pile into the chat and the crowd picks up size as we go, I'm curious to see what the numbers look like on a 4th of July. And don't worry, Dre McBuckets, I've starred your super chat question. We'll get to that in just a second. Longhorns picked up another commitment this weekend. You know, I mean, the show continues to go on. They go out to New Jersey, of all places, and pick up a massive defensive line prospect, a massive defensive tackle in Sadir Mitchell, a guy that checks in on Anwar at 6'6", 340. As far as I can tell, this is a baby Monday overreaction. I'm pretty sure he's the largest human that Texas has taken in recruiting in the last 25 years. He is a massive young man.
Yeah, Ketch. I mean, I'll be interested to see your analysis on him, but I mean that. You know what is your stat on guys? I think maybe it was an offensive stat on guys who are like 6 whatever that get drafted. You were talking about that, like 6'2", 6'3". What was that stat, Ketch?
Well, normally it's a defensive end issue. It's funny. I had that question in my mind this week with him, this weekend, specifically thinking of him. Texas defensive linemen, 4 or 5 stars, regardless of the star level, they hit at NFL level rates 50% of the time, which is just a massive, massive number. And if you are 6'4" and above, that number climbs even more so. And I think 14 of the 18 guys that are either 4 or 5 star players that have gone on to play in the NFL, among the 4 and 5 star guys, were 6'4" and above. And this guy's so huge, it makes me think about having to do analysis on things I've never thought that I would seek out analysis for. I don't know what it means to be a super tall defensive tackle. I don't think it's as important as a defensive end, so I don't know that type of math applies to him. But I think the thing that stands out the most to me is that it just continues to show what type of big people Sarkisian and his coaching staff are looking for. It's not accident when 330 plus guys keep popping up left and right.
Catch, is it as, I mean, overreaction Monday, so, here we are on 4th of July. Is it almost, Catch, to you, is it safe to say Steve Sarkisian is building bodies for the SEC? Like, he has looked, and in short, of course, there's a short term and a long term, but it almost seems like to me, Catch, that he's looked and said, you know what, I need way bigger, massive guys. Like, I need bigger guys on the offensive line. I need bigger guys on the defensive line. I need speed on the outside. Like, it seems like everything for me, Catch, and I just love to get your opinion. It seems like everything is about, man, I've been in the SEC, we're going there, and we ain't got the bodies right now to compete, and we've got to stack large human beings and fast human beings.
Yeah, and those aren't easy to come by. Like, I think in the state of Texas, you can find fast human beings, and you'll see that the majority of speed that this class brings to the table, you can do your shopping in the state of Texas. This isn't I mean, 6'6", 340-pound guys don't grow on trees to begin with, but even guys that are in the ballpark, the zip code of such size, aren't easy to find. And that Texas had to go to New Jersey to find this kid. And I say find, he's not like some hidden jewel. We're talking about a guy that, is probably a national 250 type of guy. He's a low 4-star and rivals all of the various services, either have him as a high 3-star or a low 4-star. I actually think he's better than that. And I think his ranking before the final rankings come in February, I think he'll be a guy that's ranked higher than he currently is. I mean, there are little pieces of film on him that show you he's a unique individual, right? He's not a big fat guy that can't move. He can move. He's got a football brain on him. If you go look at his huddle film, there is a play where he diagnoses a screenplay. So you see him start upfield, recognize at 6'6", 340 that it's a screenplay. He throws the brakes on, drops back into coverage, and intercepts a pass pretty athletically. And like, if you just saw that one piece of film, you'd go, I don't need to see any more. Like, I get why the coaches want this kid, but he's also 340 pounds as a high school junior. Mm-hmm. You don't know what that means when he shows up on campus. And I think the critical piece of the puzzle for a lot of guys just like him, but certainly Mitchell himself, he now has to control his weight. 340 is an area where if over the next 18 months or 12 months he gains another 20 pounds, he really makes it harder on himself, I think, to reach his, upside as a player. And so I think immediately one of the things the coaches have to do with him is start managing his body type, because the reason why he's a high 3-star or a low 4-star player is that there is a lot of risk that comes with taking massive human beings. I don't know that their hit rates are any lower than smaller human beings, but just like everything else in college football, you miss more than you get right. And so I think the bigger thing is they need more Mitchells in this recruiting class, in future recruiting classes. They're telling us who they want to be, but you can't just take one guy, right? I mean, hell, Texas has multiple 5-star quarterbacks. You can't just – whatever it is that you want on your roster, you can't just have one of them. And I think this is a peek into the future. You talk about Texas getting ready for the SEC, Anwar. This is how you get ready for the SEC. You get big human beings that can go against these other teams' big human beings. And it's one of the lessons from the Arkansas game from a year ago. They had bigger, tougher, meaner human beings, and they physically whipped Texas. And I think Sarkisian, among the many things he probably told himself coming out of that game, was, I can't let that keep happening. And the only way that stops happening in the future is if we change up the way this program goes after different types of prospects on the defense and offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, because what we're talking about is, a guy that will be a part of the 2023 class. So you're really talking about whether Texas goes in the SEC of 2024 or 2025, whatever that case may be. You give him time to grow, develop. Same way with some of these offensive linemen that are there. Stroh's another big, massive guy who they've signed. So that would be some really interesting to watch that battle of
Andre Kojo's another guy that's 330. Yes. As a high school junior at 16 years old. This is their third guy in this class, 330 plus, Anwar.
I mean, it's clearly it's obvious, right? Because Catch, what was Connor Williams when he got on campus? Was he like 290 or something like that? If you remember?
And Sam Cosmi, kind of the same thing. Like both Tom Herman liked athletic linemen, and he wanted athletic tackles. And to Tom Herman's credit, the two real athletic players that he worked with, Connor Williams was more of a Charlie Strong guy than you'd say Tom Herman, but they replaced him almost immediately with Sam Cosmi and didn't have a massive – that's really one of the crown jewel recruiting evaluations of the last decade on behalf of the Longhorns, because that, I don't mean to go on a Sam Cosmi dissertation, but that was a Houston commit. And they rated Houston. Herman did when he got here of a few prospects, and he was the guy that panned out. What's really interesting about Mitchell is that they went through Georgia and A&M to get him, and those schools all want the same thing. They want the next Jordan Davis. The problem is Jordan Davis doesn't hit 100% of the time. So in order for this strategy to work for Texas, they're going to have to continue to accumulate these massive human beings, and some will work and some will not work. But the Texas staff is screaming at us what it is that they actually want.
So I have a question for you, but I guess let's do the super chat first, and I've got a question for you.
Okay, this is, I think, an easy question to answer. Thanks to Dre McBuckets for the super chat question. Do you think the 2024 class for UT is going to be better than the 2023 class? Because that's the class that will play with Arch because he is redshirting his first year. Look, I don't know. The good thing that you would say about the 2024 class, Anwar, is that Texas has a couple of commitments. They're both national top 50 prospects. It's a hell of a way to start. When I first started reading this question, I thought it was, is this 2023 class going to be better than the 2022 class? And I was going to say, oh, yeah, absolutely, yes. You can already start to see it with the number of elite difference makers. This class already has as many as the last class did. 2024, that's a really hard question to answer. If Texas can keep up the momentum, I think it's going to be on par. And on par might mean top 3 in the country type of class. So it's being on par in this case with, it's hard for me to look at. I don't know what this class is going to be. It could be number 1. It could be number 2. This is going to be better than last year's class, Anwar, the 2023 class. And it was a top 5 national class. I think the stakes are being raised, and we're looking at something that's going to be higher than that. Doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for 2024 to sneak above it.
I know, but I mean, Ketch, I'm at the point now, if you're saying, hey, do you want to bet against Sarkisian in recruiting? I'm good. I'm not, I won't take that bet. I had my concerns, in last year, and especially when recruiting was going slow, and I just wasn't quite sure how it was going to finish. And then they finished so strong at that point. And then we was like, okay, let's play this wait and see game. And all of a sudden they get Arch, and then there's been 9-10 commitments since then. I'm not, if you say 2024 top 3, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Until he proves otherwise, I have to give them the benefit of doubt.
I'm not going to give benefit of the doubt, but only because they literally might have the number 1 class in the country in 2023 when the dust settles, which means it could be mathematically impossible for 2024 to be better. Again, Dre, I think the thing that I would take to heart is that Texas is recruiting at a really nationally elite level right now, and that they are already off to that kind of start in 2024. Those are very much first world wealthy people problems. Real quick, just a couple more. Let's knock out just a few of these super chat questions.
My question for you, too.
Overweight Lovers, and I haven't forgotten that you have a question.
Yeah, okay.
Overweight Lover says, can Becton give him a workout and nutrition plan? Or is that not? Yes, he can. Immediately. Like, they can start helping him immediately with nutrition, with the type of – it's not the same as being with the kid in person, But yes, as it relates to Sydir Mitchell, they can absolutely start working with him now. And that he is, I'm not quite sure if he's an early enrollee or not, but, there's 6 to 11, 12 months away from having that kid on campus. They'll be able to do a lot of work with him before that moment arrives. And last Super Chat question so far from Magnahorn on Orange Bloods. Just excited to catch at least part of one of these. Is there a schedule somewhere? Good question, Magnahorn.
Yeah, that's really
so
good.
Our schedule as things currently look, Anwar, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10:30 on Mondays. We go live with the Monday Overreaction Show. I do a live show on Tuesday at 7. You do a live show at 6 on Wednesday.
Correct.
And then our modcast show on Thursday is kind of a work in progress. We haven't quite figured out what we think. 9:30 is not the best time. What we're trying to figure out is what the best time for that Thursday show is, with respect to the fact that that's a war room day and there's already a lot of things that we do on Thursday. That's our live schedule. We also have videos that Anwar and I will record on Tuesday that usually come out on Tuesday or Wednesday. So from a live schedule, Monday at 10:30 in the morning, Tuesday 6 or 7 at night, Wednesday 6 at night, Thursday just right 11 a.m. in pencil right now. Moving forward, we're still tinkering with that. And then there's a host of other shows throughout the rest of the week. Thank you for asking that question, though, simply because there may be a lot of people who watch this as the first video or the first time they check out a live show. They don't really know what we do. We were able to lay those out, I think, pretty easily. Anwar.
By the way, on my live show on Wednesday, I did get it reconfirmed. UTSA coach Geoff Traylor will be on the Drunk Uncle show this Wednesday. So Wednesday at 6 p.m., Jay Reed, I've got Geoff Traylor there. And if you haven't checked out the Drunk Uncle, I'm a little bit different in that show than I am right here, just so you know.
Well, the hat comes out.
The hat and the drip comes out. And so
you're not giving us drip this morning?
Nah, I got to save it for Wednesday, man.
Fair enough.
That is for that show and that show alone. So, okay. So here's the question I had for you, Ketch.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, when it comes to Sydir, he was a future cast for Georgia for a while. And that kind of started to switch at some point over the last, week or two when things started to, kind of change. We've been talking about the need to step it up from a defensive recruiting standpoint. And some have asked about Pete K and what needs to happen there. Is getting Mitchell a win in your recruiting book for Pete K? Does that move the needle for you anyway in shape or form? Because we've talked about a lot of offensive guys being added, but we hadn't talked about defensive guys. I'm just kind of curious from a recruiting standpoint what that does for you.
Not much. I mean, if we're going to keep it a buck, I view Sydir Mitchell as a guy that's got a 75 to 80% chance of failing at Texas. And he's a tricky guy because, and this isn't a new conversation piece that I brought up. He probably needs 2 or 3 years of development. Now that could be wrong, right? Like maybe he's a freak and maybe we're all missing the boat and he shows up from Jump Street and plays on goal line packages or something. That's not impossible, but typically he falls into a category of guys that needs some weight room work. He needs to get stronger. He needs to get into better shape. And players that need 2 or 3 years need 2 or 3 years. He may very well fall into that category. In 2022, it's hard to have patience with 3-year prospects. And when they're from out of state, they typically make quicker and faster decisions. It's hard to find. Most of these guys think they're going to the NFL in 3 years. So to tell them that they need 2 or 3 years before they can start to become college impact players, it just sounds like, like a foreign language to them. It's very hard for them to reconcile waiting and developing. And meanwhile, at a school like Texas, you can be recruited past pretty quickly. So it's hard to say. From a recruiting standpoint, he's not a 5-star type guy. Anthony Hill moves the needle.
I was just going to ask you this. So Anthony Hill would move the needle for you.
Yeah, and maybe he might be one of the few guys in this class on the defensive side of the ball that can do that, because he's at these probably outside of quarterback, every single year. Linebacker is the most important position in this class. And they're going to do a good job. They're doing a really good job at recruiting that position. Hill puts them over the top. He would be the best linebacker signing at worst since Jordan Hicks almost a decade ago, in what would have been one of the last classes that Mac Brown had. I think that was 2013, 2012. Like, it's been so long ago, I can't even remember when the hell Jordan Hicks showed up on campus. At best, maybe the best since Derek Johnson in 2001. So he's he's legitimately a generational type talent. And David Hicks would be the other. This is a good win. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not poo-pooing the addition of Mitchell, who I think is a really fine prospect. You're asking me if it moves the needle. It doesn't quite do that. There are a few players, though, on the board that if the Longhorns can get them, it does move the needle. And, and I think Texas is going to get Anthony Hill. So, there's a conversation of whether Texas has gotten that guy yet. And I'm saying no. But if you ask me, do I think Texas is going to get that guy? I do think the answer is yes. And it's probably unfair that PK won't get the credit for that. And that, he's not getting a little more credit for, I think, a defensive class in 2023 that's coming together pretty well. Money out to Anus says, don't forget about Sergio Kendall as well. Good point. Sergio to me wasn't never a linebacker prospect. He was kind of his own little thing. He ended up, his best position was would Texas give to have Sergio Kendall in this recruiting class to be an edge player, not just this season, but in the future. This is good. This is going to end up being a better defensive recruiting class than I think people thought it would be a month ago. But, everybody's going to wait to see what the defense looks like this year. And there will be changes if it's not good.
Okay. Is there anybody else outside of Hill? I'm just kind of curious from your LSR, that rankings, like that Texas is in the mix for, that from a defensive perspective. Because we've seen, like Choate's got a couple of linebackers, and he was the guy that was getting a lot of crap on the board, but he's got 2 commits. And I don't know if he made the visit out to Hawaii.
Here are your difference makers, okay? Let's run through the defensive side of the ball. David Hicks Jr. is the number 1 rated prospect in the state of Texas this year. He's number 1 on my LSR. The Longhorns are in the mix there. They've got their work to do, but they're in better shape now than they were a month ago. Getting him on campus just that first time really seemed to get some momentum going there, but they've got work to do. Then you've got Denton Ryan linebacker Anthony Hill. If Hicks is 1A, Hill is 1B. Like I said, Hill is a generational talent at linebacker. I have already future casted the Longhorns to get him. I think they will get him. The number 3 player in the state is Arlington Martin cornerback Javian Toviano. And we're talking about a 5-star level cornerback prospect. Him and Malik Muhammad are kind of 1A and 1B at the cornerback position. Mm-hmm. And getting either one of those guys does move the needle. Now, the likelihood is I think the Longhorns are going to get Malik Muhammad. I don't know about Toviano, and that's a tough one to call. There's been a lot of thought that A&M's the leader there. There's also been some thought that one of the reasons why Malik Muhammad and Texas is looking so good right now is that Toviano and A&M look like more of a thing than Texas and Toviano do, and those two guys may not go to the same school together. From there, for me, there's a real drop off in talent at that point. So you've got those are the 4 in-state difference makers. There are other guys that I think are really good prospects. I mean, I think that there are some people that view Darian Gillette as a guy that's in that mix. I don't quite think he's that good. And he's a bit of a tweener. I don't know what he is as a prospect. By the way, I just saw someone in the chat say that people forget that Brian Arakpo was a 3-star. Victor, no, he wasn't. He was a 4-star. Just FYI. I can look that up if you need me to. I personally had Arakpo as like a top 20 prospect in the state of Texas. Saw him at the Nike camp the year that he was a junior, almost 20 years ago. Makes me feel really old. But Braylon Shelby is another guy that is a tier below those 4 guys that I mentioned. Those are the primary guys, though. It's not a huge list.
Okay, all right. I was just kind of curious to see what moved the needle for you as far as all those guys was concerned. That's kind of the main thing I wanted to kind of.
Everybody needs to, if they don't already know, David Hicks, Anthony Hill, Toviano, and Malik Muhammad. Those are the 4 guys that matter the most. Those are the guys that are separate from everybody else.
When they want to. Those are the guys that can commit when they want to. There's other guys who are like, hey, I need to get my spot in this class. And those guys can say, I'll let you know. Correct?
Those are the guys that can command $250,000 to $500,000 in a briefcase.
Okay.
And those guys will have those types of options should they want them. Those are the guys that from an NIL standpoint, schools will be doing everything they can to let them know. Even more flagrantly, I think, than A&M having a coach on the field point to suites. Like, those things get said. A&M, that video of that A&M coach talking about how they get their money, like that happens. Mm-hmm. And those are the guys that people will really. Those are the 4 players that competition in the SEC for the Longhorns will pay for on a wildly different level than other prospects.
When you say A&M catch, I'm just kind of curious as we're just having fun on the 4th of July, right? This is unscripted, but you just keep saying stuff, and I like to pick your brain from a recruiting standpoint. Catch, do you think, from what you're seeing, do you think A&M and Texas are doing a better job of keeping the top guys in state, or at least commanding their attention more so in previous years?
Absolutely. And one of the things that eventually is, I think, going to be a real interesting thing to follow is that Texas and Texas A&M have never been really good at the same time. If I'm not mistaken, in the history of the rivalry, there's never been consecutive years where both teams won 9 or more games together. One team does it and the other one doesn't. And then if the other team does it, and the other school dips down. So what we're seeing in recruiting right now in 2023, 2022 is both of these in-state schools recruiting at a top 5 level a year ago. Kind of the same thing again this year. It is eventually going to set the table where there is a big Texas versus Texas. Right now, it feels like they both have their feet and flags firmly planted in the state of Texas. At some point, one of those 2 schools, I think, rises to the top. Historically, they've never been good together. So it makes me think that eventually, when they're playing head-to-head in a couple of years, one's going to have a significant advantage over the other. And I wonder how that on the field. And then I wonder how that plays out in recruiting. Anwar, did I lose you?
Yeah, by the way, am I having audio issues by any chance? Are you hearing me okay?
You sound great.
I think you may have.
Well, now I seem to have lost you. Blake, let me know what's going on in the chat. Is it me or is it him? Oh, That's it. I lost Anwar. Well, hey, I'll continue it as Anwar, I think, reboots his computer or does whatever. I'll take some questions in the chat now just to continue the conversation, mainly because my brain is a bit scrambled this morning. And, y'all's questions will help me out. How much of an effect is GP and getting these 3 stars and trying to develop them or coach them? Not much at this point. I mean, I wish I could give you a better answer on that, but, he's not really involved in the development at all right now. Maybe that changes, but at this point, he doesn't have that role inside the program. By the way, as I see us creeping up to nearly 400 live viewers, again, do us a solid, like the video, subscribe to the channel. My dog is in the background, letting you guys know that is dog talk for hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. My dog is telling you that right now. Oh, it's just chaos on a Monday. Let's see. What other questions? Oh, you know what? Brett points out that Toviano was just on Gerard Hurd's podcast with Samaje Burrell. I saw that. I'm going to kill my dog in a little bit. So FYI, nobody call PETA on me. It'll be less kill, more muzzle when it's all said and done. Anwar is back. Anwar, you didn't miss much. I was just taking a couple of questions. Brett, I did see that, and I'm going to follow up on that. I found that to be interesting as well, that Toviano was on with Gerard. I didn't even know Gerard Hurd had a podcast. It was like a video cast, but he was on with Samaje Burrell, and I wonder what that means. I mean, the Longhorns have such good momentum in recruiting right now that nothing is impossible. Simple as that. I mean, they're back in on David Hicks when that seemed like a lost cause 30 days ago. They've always, once upon a time, they were leaders for Toviano, who comes from a school where Texas has had some success recruiting in recent years in Arlington Martin. So there's nothing that you could tell me in recruiting that would completely shock me at this point. Texas has that kind of momentum going. Anwar, I'll let you jump back in. Let's hear your mic and make sure that you're okay with us.
Hey, how's it good? How's I'm sounding right now?
You always had sounded good to me. There was just a moment where you kind of froze and dropped out, but you're back better than ever.
Yeah, I mean, so far, when you consider the cable company that we're using, that you're also familiar with, this has actually been a good run.
Damn.
It's been a good run for Spectrum. I have to say, if this is the only problem we've had in a while, of course, it'll totally backfire on my live show on Wednesday, and I'll have internet will be out or something to that effect. No, with
Jeff Traylor as your guest. Yeah, why would you brave man to risk that jinx?
There's probably something bad that's going to happen. I probably should have waited till day of to promote. I'll be quite honest with you. So
day after you do that, you mentioned how good the internet typically is working on the modcast. Let that be the show.
Yeah. So totally screwed that one up. So you guys can look at the disaster that's likely to happen on Wednesday. So, but Ketch, you did answer my question. I do know it's 4th of July. I know that we all got things going on. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about, Ketch?
No. I mean, it's the 4th of July, right? I mean, on top of it being a holiday, we are in a dead period. We discussed the commitment that Texas got yesterday pretty much at length. We've talked about the majority of the high-profile guys that Texas is still recruiting. It's not like there's a lot of stuff going on right now. I mean, you got any thoughts on Kevin Durant? Because I'm waiting for that I'm fascinated. The NBA, sidebar, the NBA is just wild.
Yeah.
And that right before free agency, Kevin Durant puts in a trade request and the Nets are just going to blow the whole thing up. And we might see weirdly Durant and Russell Westbrook reunited for at least a few days as teammates until Durant gets like the NBA every year has this level of drama with its best players that is just so, and it's better than the NFL. This is better than like Aaron Rodgers with the Packers. That always feels like a pain in the ass when it's an NFL guy who's like warring with his team. These NBA dudes, it's like the culture has accepted that they can just wild out anytime they want to. And if they're unhappy, they can go, which that just doesn't happen in like the NFL. Unhappy players don't just get to do whatever the hell they want to.
Because of those guaranteed contracts, baby. Those guarantees that are checking the boxes said, like, I got 150 million reasons not to give a damn. Like that, you know what I'm saying? Like in the NFL, there's only guys that make that kind of money. And then everyone else is, making good money. This NBA money. These guys are like, I don't want to be here. Get rid of me. It's a players' league. It's interesting, for me, Ketch, because I like KD. Like I really do. He gets a lot of hate for whatever reasons, and I don't have a real issue with him, to be quite honest with you. I think he's a phenomenal player, but I followed him before I ever got here to UT. I followed him. I watched games at Texas because I just thought this guy was a freak. I think he's immensely talented. And, at the end of the day, I know people give him shit, but, life's too short to be unhappy. If he's getting a certain play, I say as a guy who's been divorced multiple times, so maybe I can understand KD better than anyone else. Man, life's too short. Life's too short, man. If you're not happy, it's not working for you. Who says you got to stay there and tough it out? Who? I don't. KD says I answer to me.
Anwar, the thing is, we typically say we want our athletes to be more open with us and more authentic and to not give us programmed answers and just say the things that we think we want to hear. Durant is authentically open in ways that most guys aren't. And what everybody really decided was, you know what? We really don't want you because we find out he's a human being and does things like have burner accounts on Twitter. Like, that's real. That's more insight to a guy like that than we ever typically have. And what happens is we find out the insight that we end up getting isn't what we wanted. Like, what we really say as a culture when we say we want guys to be more open, it's that we want them to just dance for us, put on a show. We don't really want them to be human. You know why? Because being a human sucks. It's complicated. It's nuanced. It's, people go to therapy for a reason. And I see Kevin Durant sometimes and I think to myself, well, that's a dude that definitely has a therapist. And there's nothing wrong with that. God, I need a therapist right now. And yet, we just, as a culture, we haven't gotten to the point where we're okay with vulnerable people being vulnerable for us and not taking shots at their being vulnerable. Because it's not like he's ever been arrested. It's not like Kevin Durant's ever done a bad thing. No. And yet I feel like I see a guy like Deshaun Watson take less heat than Kevin Durant. Because Kevin Durant is soft, but by soft, people mean he's just open about like having feelings.
Catch the Kevin Durant's on Orange Bloods, right? I mean, he has a handle on Orange Bloods, correct?
I don't know.
It wouldn't shock you if he
did. It wouldn't shock me, but he's a basketball guy, and name any football player in the last 20 years, and whether it's Earl Thomas or Quandre Diggs or Colt, all those guys are on Orange Bloods, especially when they were in school. So yeah, like Kevin Durant, though, I don't know. I'll buy Matthew McConaughey. I'll buy any football player. I don't know if there's enough about Durant on Orange Bloods for him to. If we talk Kevin Durant all day long, he'd be on Orange Bloods.
That's fair.
There's just not enough daily Kevin. There are other places for him to go to read about himself and like what people are saying and that's the thing about the NBA. It's just so big. There are those NBA circles that I think he frequents that you know, it's probably less than healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like if I lived in my mentions every day. Like, I rarely read the mentions because if I've been through my mentions on one day, I've been on them every day. But some people my wife would have a hard time back in the day when she was on social media. It used to drive her crazy to go into my mentions. And I'd be like, you can't, be like, babe, you can't do that. Like, it's ugly. And like, just know that it's ugly. And like, it's weird to get in a comfortable place with that. And I think that it takes years and years and years. And one day I think Kevin will probably be comfortable in that echo chamber that he lives in. He's just not there yet. Like, he wants to fight and push against it. And the more you fight and push against it, the more people rail against you. And it's kind of strange that he's in his 30s and it hasn't quite. Although maybe he would tell you that like he's at peace. And then it's everybody else who just doesn't quite get it. That may very well be the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating thought process because he seems to be okay and comfortable in his skin, and I can totally respect that. I mean, he's not sitting somewhere just because other people think get rid of the dog catch.
Oh, while you were gone, my dog put on a show.
Oh, I missed it. I got to go back and watch.
You did. Didn't come inside the office.
Uh-huh.
By the way, for the record, my dogs kept me up until about 5 o'clock in the morning last night.
Nice.
And when I woke up and walked into one of the rooms in the house, diarrhea was everywhere. Everywhere. And it had been there long enough that I couldn't just wipe it up. Oh, I'm mad at my dogs today. Peter may be at my door before the week is over at this rate.
This is the reason why when my kids ask me about getting a dog or some sort of pet, I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. I got to take care of you. I'm not taking care of anything else. And that dog thing is mandatory, so it's too much work. The kids are too much, let alone adding in a pet. Too much.
And I've got 2, and my wife and kids are out of town, and I'm about to join them. Hey, let's do this, Anwar. We've done that.
Do your dogs sleep on your bed?
We have like a little 5-pound Muppet.
Uh-huh.
And that 5-pound dog sleeps behind my wife's head. So not on her head, but like there's a spot carved out for the Muppet to just find herself. The German Shepherd is like 70 pounds and does not get into bed.
Okay. I'm just curious. And this last thing, like brothers asking questions. Does a dog kiss the lips?
Oh God, no.
Okay.
I know what my dogs do. And I am not a person that believes that the dog's mouth is the cleanest.
Yeah.
The cleanest thing. Like I was rubbing my dog yesterday and I was like, now I know it was diarrhea, but I was like, you smell like shit. So no, don't get up in my face.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Hey, last thing. Do you watch the Nathan's hot dog eating contest?
No.
I am addicted to it.
Are you really?
This has been.
It grosses me out.
I have watched this thing. So when I worked in Tampa, I convinced my editors, to let me write Nathan's hot dog eating contest. So I was able to, I think it was I interviewed Joey Chestnut and a bunch of other guys in the competitive eating world, and was able to write about how their stomachs fluctuate, this and that. I was totally fascinated by it. I want to say about 7 years ago or so, I went to New York and I watched it live.
Like you were there?
Yeah, I was there. I was there.
You've been a spectator?
I was a spectator. I literally was staying in Manhattan with my ex, Max's mom, and so it had to. I could have. It must have been like my second year here, and totally flew we took the train down to Coney Island, and I literally was a spectator there for the thing. Like, I was so pumped. And so, yeah, I mean, I know like Joey Chestnut's got a cast on his foot, and I got to find out why. So yeah, this is my July 4th tradition. You just learned this about me. Anwar is addicted to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
Would you ever eat a hot dog that was soaked in water? That's the thing I can't get. Like, I can't get beyond how they do it. Because if you came in here and put a hot dog in some water, like wet bread, it just doesn't do it for me. It gives me the icks.
Their stomachs expand to a point where it does, they don't do it normally. They have to train for it. And that's just the way to make it go down a lot easier, a lot faster. That's just one. This is the big one. They have competitive eating contests all the time.
I've always enjoyed like the Man versus Food show.
Oh yeah.
Like, I like it when the big fat guy will go and he'll sit down and they'll put like 5 pounds of chili or something in front of him and he has to eat the whole thing in less than 30 minutes. Like, I kind of like that, but when they're all side by side, it's a
spit zone and everything in there. Yeah,
thinking about it, like it's not my thing.
Okay, well, all I know is I can tell you that I've got it pulled up right now on my laptop as I multitask.
Well, look, man, let's do this. We've already gone for 45 minutes. We said going in that it was going to be a 30 to 45 minute show. Guys, thanks for watching. It's a little shorter than the normal Monday Overreaction Show. If you're at work for some reason and you're bored and we're entertaining you, go watch one of the videos from last week. Anwar and I got to get our 4th of July on. I got to go get with my wife and kids. I don't even know where the hell they are. I literally, when I'm done here, I have to ask my wife for directions to where they're spending the 4th of July.
Oh, wow.
It's somewhere like, I don't know. And I got to finish cleaning up dog diet. Like, I got things I got to do so that I can actually enjoy the 4th of July. Do us a solid. Subscribe to the video, or like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow with more videos. I'll be live tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Anwar will be live with Geoff Trailer for the Drunk Uncle on Wednesday at 6. So it may be the heart of the dead season, but we'll be going live and flying high on Orange Blood's Texas Football Channel the entire week and the rest of the summer. Until tomorrow, though, you guys take care of each other. Have a wonderful 4th of July. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.